The following is a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about them Cowboys?
Go Cowboys! This is Girls Talk, Boys Talk, presented by Jigsaw Dating, preferred dating partner of the Dallas Cowboys, and broadcasting live from Dallas Cowboys World Headquarters at the Star.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Girls Talk, Boys Talk, presented by Jigsaw, the preferred dating partner of the Dallas Cowboys. Christy Scales, Aisha Morris, and Jess Navarre is here with you on this Wednesday afternoon. Ladies, we were back at practice today. Well, we weren't practicing. We were watching the guys practice today. And we got some locker room material. We got to talk to a lot of the guys, getting some good notes and insight there as well. So we'll get into that. Real quick, if you guys have any questions you'd like to send in to us, please tweet us. We'll get that text line going here in a little bit as well. If you want to know anything, we're turning the page, though, as the Dallas Cowboys face the Arizona Cardinals this weekend. So we are officially in Cardinals mode. We are in our Dallas Cowboys face the Arizona Cardinals era here on the Girls Talk Boys Talk podcast. So with that being said, let's start with our injury report. The Dallas Cowboys releasing their official injury report earlier, probably like an hour ago at this point, so pretty recently. The following two guys did not participate in practice. That was guard Zach Martin, safety Jaron Kearse. Jaron dealing with a bit of an illness, and then Zach dealing with that rolled ankle injury that he sustained during Sunday's game against the Jets. We did know from Mike McCarthy earlier in the day, though, that he wasn't going to practice. He was going to be with the rehab group, so there's that. Chuma Edoga, Brandon Cooks, and Tyler Smith were all limited at practice today. Chuma Edoga dealing with that elbow injury he sustained on Sunday, and then Brandon Cooks still coming back from that knee injury. Tyler Smith still dealing with that hamstring injury as well. But something to make your ears perk, I saved this one for last. Donovan Wilson, a full participant in practice today. So, ladies, what does that mean for you to see Dono kind of? We've seen him been ramping up the past couple of weeks, but to be a full participant in practice, Aisha, we were talking about this right before. What is that telling you about Dono?
I mean, if we're paying attention to how Christy operates, I feel like she understands when guys practice matters.
It does.
And what days they practice matter. And for him to have, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, his first full practice.
Exactly.
Shows that he's trending upward and he's on schedule as they planned. And we talked about it. I think that the Cardinals are a good team to kind of insert a guy that's been injured, back into the fold and kind of get a feel for them. They don't do a whole bunch of exotic stuff offensively. We'll get there. But I think this is a good time for him to come back and, make his impact that he does.
Yeah, and then Wednesday, today was in shells. We'll see if tomorrow if they go full pads. Even when you're full pads, it's not full contact. You're not tackling and things like that. But if he's able to if they are full pads and he's able to go full tomorrow, then that bodes really well for Donovan being able to make his season debut in Week 3 at Arizona. And so, you're missing J-Ron in the secondary, but Dono's back. So, and like Jess, what you alluded to, Mike McCarthy told us that Zach wasn't going to practice. And the other thing is, remember that they had 87 plays. The offensive lineman did in Sunday's game. Zach didn't because he missed part of the fourth quarter, but that was a lot of work because you normally get about 60 to 65 in an NFL game. So if Zach didn't participate today, then that's okay because, he got all of the offensive linemen got a lot of work on Sunday.
Absolutely. And something I wanted to make note of was Mike McCarthy kind of talked about keeping the longevity of these guys throughout the 17 weeks this season. So something that you're going to see a lot of is, for example, Tony Pollard took a lot of hits during Sunday's game against the Jets. A lot of rushing yards and opportunities there. So he wasn't going to get as many reps at practice. He was a full participant in practice, but Mike McCarthy made it clear he's not going to get full reps at practice, not because he's injured, but again, you got to rest these guys' bodies.
Yeah, over
and
30
have
touches.
To just continue to emphasize that.
Yeah, we heard Tony talk about, and in his interview today, just kind of heard him talk about how he's even taken an uptick in his aftercare and his rehab and stuff after the game, and that's something that when I get a chance to talk to the guys, I'm always so interested in is, what do you do? What are the things you're doing to get your body ready for the next game? Because it is so, when we think about what these gentlemen do, I think obviously, it's a part of the game and whatever, but just the fact that they play a full game like that, they come, and it's a week. It's not even a full week most of the time. Sometimes for them to prepare for the next week, I think it's important that we understand how they rehab and how they're getting their bodies prepared for the next week. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think the most crowded room this week, the training room, it's actually the ice tubs. So Tony was talking about how he spent some extra time in the ice tubs. So gets down the soreness and the swelling.
Absolutely. Real quick, you can text us your questions now at 817-290-3298. Let us know what questions you have about the matchups that we're going to see and discuss throughout the next couple of days here on the podcast. But another thing I wanted to make mention of was practice today. It was raining when everybody first went out there, and it was raining with the sunlight out. So how that happens, I guess Texas is your answer. But there wasn't a lot that you've seen that was different from them, right? I mean, it was kind of the same practice that we see and that we see.
Oh yeah, we're in the normal routine now, so we're getting in that normal routine. But we talk about Donovan Wilson, good to see him back, but also the fact that Tyler Smith was able to get work today. That was really good. He's officially listed as limited, but of course he's our starting left guard has missed the first 2 regular season games with that hamstring injury. So the fact that he's also working back in, that's a real key, especially since, as you say, Chuma Edoga, who's been filling in these first 2 weeks, was limited because of the right elbow injury.
Absolutely, and I'm so glad you brought that up, that they're getting in the normal routine of things, and with that is them finding their stride and their rhythm with things. And so something that I took personally from Mike McCarthy's press conference this morning was he talked about how he's still finding his rhythm with his offensive play calling, that he's not quite there yet, and really I don't think anybody is across the NFL, right? I don't think that's exclusive to just Mike McCarthy calling the plays for the first time since he's been with the Dallas Cowboys, but I think it's important to note that what you see from this Cowboys offense is just the starting line. It's not necessarily your end-all, be-all, and we'll get into some of the locker room conversations there as well, but Aisha, you pointed that out too this morning when we were talking about it, saying that this wasn't something that they were going to figure out overnight. It's not, anything to be panicked about. And something we haven't even gotten into is why this conversation is being brought up, is because people are asking Mike McCarthy, hey, Dak's not throwing interceptions. What's going on? This is the second week. And Dak was tired of that conversation, personally. Sure. Yeah, I think we're all tired of it. But I wanted to get into that because we haven't talked about it yet. And it's done by design that we haven't spoken about it, but I think it's important to kind of go back to why it's a conversation of the past, how everything has moved on going forward as we get into everything with Arizona. So Aisha talked about the footwork. We talked about everything Dak's been doing, but what has been working well when you hear what Mike McCarthy is saying about Dak Prescott, working with him, even just play calling in general, what is he doing well so far for this starting line, for this offensive play calling?
They just communicate. It's one thing that I feel like you can tell amongst even Brian Schottenheimer, just the way that he talks about the game in depth. If you haven't, go listen to Brian Schottenheimer's pressers. They're very informal, and they will let you know kind of what this offense is doing. And he gives you some insight. But they seem like they're in sync. And with Dak, this isn't a gentleman that I think I mentioned before, he's a quarterback. But every player that wants to be great wants to be coached. They enjoy being coached. And Mike McCarthy has specialized in QB play. He's specialized in, making guys better. And with Dak, I just feel like he's taken the coaching. He's comfortable. And I think they've even said that there were some things they decided, like, are we keeping this? Are we throwing this out? It's open. It's a very open forum. And I think Dak has even used the word inclusive. And I think that's kind of what you see in this play calling and stuff, is that they're doing things that are cohesive to what Dak enjoys doing as a quarterback and the things he does well. But also, too, Mike McCarthy has done this for a while. He's done this for a minute. And I think that, people have recent memory of some of the things that happened in Green Bay, and they maybe held on to that. But no, Mike McCarthy was a play caller at a high level for a long time. But I will say he has changed up. He's urbanized his play calling a little bit. He got some razzle dazzle to him. But to answer your question, I think that their communication is great amongst the offensive side of the ball, and you're seeing that there's understanding on what the team does well, what the offense does well, and they're executing at a high level right now.
Yeah, to be +7 in the turnover ratio through 2 weeks, 7 takeaways and 0 giveaways. That's thanks to Tyler Biotish getting on a couple of fumbles. but in regards to the Dak not throwing interceptions, honestly, they've been playing with a lead. And really, he hasn't had to force anything either, you know? So a lot of these times, these interceptions are happening when you're having to make comeback, or you're forced to throw, you're being one-dimensional, your run game's not working, and then you're trying to fit the ball into tight windows. And the Cowboys haven't found themselves in that situation through the first 2 games. We would like to see, if there's one slight criticism you can have through the first, or from last week's game, and we referenced it yesterday, you want to see them, finish out these scoring drives and not have to settle for the field goals and do better in the red zone. But there was that one pass, I guess, week 1 where the corner fell off and, should have had the interception, and then Sauce Gardner had one go through his hands week 2. But, hey, the other team didn't make the play, so you're still +7.
If you're perfect in week 2, you got bigger problems to me. Listen, I like the idea, and this team sounds like, even listening to their interviews, they like that they have things to build upon. They like they have things to get better on. It's week 2, baby. This season is so long. We're gonna be looking up in December and being like, it's just,
this is going to feel like ancient history.
Like,
yeah.
So it's
Week 3, who did we play? Arizona.
Yeah. So it's having something to build upon, to work on, and again, those things can be fixed. That's execution things.
Sure.
And so I'm looking forward to just continue to see this offense grow and Mike McCarthy get into his bag.
Yeah, and what really caught my attention today, and unfortunately for the people who love DallasCowboys.com and watch the press conferences, sometimes the best stuff is during the walk-off. Mm-hmm. So in the hallway after the press conference when the video cameras aren't rolling. But it was what you're talking about, Jess, with Mike McCarthy's play calling when he said, what's your number one thing? He says it's ball distribution, right? So it's touches for everyone, and it's not, we want 50% run, 50% pass. And when he talks about ball distribution, it's not ratio between pass and run. It's making sure that you get the ball in your playmakers' hands.
Okay, I have a question. I wanted to ask you, ladies, because we were there for that, and Mike McCarthy did mention the ball distribution and how important it is to, well, Brian Schottenheimer said in his interview, his presser rather, that with the system and the way that it works is the first open read gets the ball. And so I'm asking you ladies, like, how does that coincide with what Mike McCarthy said? How does that? I'm asking. Yeah,
it's getting rid of the ball quickly. So first read, if he's open, go for it, as opposed to, okay, that's my first read, but I'm going to go further down the field and go for a bigger play. That's just an example. It's not every single time, but that would be an example of maybe instead of doing your first read, if he's open, saying, I'm going to take a shot. I think I got a one-on-one over here. I'm going to, give him that extra half a second, see if I can get the ball downfield. But this one, like we've talked about with McCarthy, Schottenheimer saying the same thing. Get the ball out quickly, get the ball to your playmakers in space, let them get some yards after the catch. And then the other thing that McCarthy said today in the walk-off, that the number one thing that this staff's approach and his longtime approach, and he learned this from Marty Schottenheimer, is when you're working on the offensive game plan, the number one, yes, of course you want to run the ball because you need to run the ball to help, set up the pass, right? But the number one thing is pass protection. So you make sure that you've got it right on pass protection, and then everything else in the game plan follows that.
I was going to say, too, it's also the communication that Dak has with his receivers, with his tight ends, with his backs. it's the playmakers knowing where to be too. It's them being on the same page and not scrambling to not know where they're supposed to go. It's knowing their routes. It's knowing their job. It's knowing their assignment with every single thing that they're doing. They're playing very intentionally. Everybody is across the board. So it's a mixture of a lot of little things here, but I also think a big part of it is when you have a guy like CeeDee Lamb that's connecting with Dak on this, I don't want to say it's a new level. I don't even think it's a new level. It's a level that we didn't get to see a lot of for a long period of time last season. You got to see little glimpses of it starting last year, and then now what you're seeing is right where they left off last year, picking back up and then growing from that point on. So when you have a guy like CeeDee who knows where to go, who knows what he's doing, who has those nonverbal cues that he worked with Dak Prescott all offseason, that's kind of the product you're seeing of that.
And with the ball distribution, it just clicked to me, like, if I'm a OC, ball distribution and the ball going to multiple different people, it allows, similar to the defense, it doesn't allow you to key in on one guy.
Absolutely.
Yep.
It doesn't
Right.
allow you to get a beat on one guy because they're spreading the ball around and there's multiple people involved. Sorry, it just clicked to me like, oh, that makes sense why that would be an added
and it
emphasis.
keeps everyone engaged. I won't say it on this show, but I know of players who have played for this team in the past that became disengaged when they weren't involved early in the game plan. And so when you really feel like, even if I know I'm not number one on this play, if I'm not the first read, then I'm still doing my thing because I know I could still get the ball. You know, like Randy Moss, a Hall of Fame receiver, loved to watch Randy Moss, was there on the sideline when he toasted the Cowboys in that game. Oh, my gosh, averaged over 50 yards a catch. But he admitted that there were times where he didn't run out the thing because he knew the ball wasn't coming to him. Now, when you're Randy Moss, you can do whatever the heck you want to do. But not in this offense, and not if you want to get the ball, because there's a chance it's going to be coming to you. And if you're loafing on it because you think you're the third or fourth guy on this, hey, be ready because it may come your way. It's like playing basketball with Luka Doncic or playing with Magic Johnson or Steve Nash. You better be ready. And what's the one thing that Schottenheimer talked about, the analogy that he used in the offseason of the quarterback's role in this offense? It's like being a point guard. Maybe you're bringing it down and you're making sure you get fast to the line, get up there and get the shooter the ball.
There you go. Well, shoot or shoot. We are going to take our first break here. When we come back, we are answering some of your questions. We're also going to get into some of the key matchups that we've noticed from the Arizona Cardinals, some things to keep in mind, and what we noticed from watching back and studying for you guys. Stay tuned. This is Girls Talk Boys Talk, presented by Jigsaw, the preferred dating partner of the Dallas Cowboys, and we'll be right back.
We know that juicy, cheesy, grilled to perfection burger sounds amazing, but it does sound like something is missing. Pepsi, baby! The yin to this burger's yang. Burgers and Pepsi go together like burgers and Pepsi. This perfect blending of flavors makes every bite of lettuce, every sesame seed on the bun, and every sip of that crisp, refreshing, ice-cold cola a journey to Foodtopia. Burgers, better with Pepsi. That's what I like.
At Jigsaw Dating, we obviously want the Cowboys to bring that sixth ring home. But to be honest, we're more focused on finding the person who will put a ring on your finger. That's why we created a dating app that reveals your face through meaningful conversation, so you can date deeper. Because it's personality that matters the most, not looks. Join Jigsaw Dating today, dating partner of the Dallas Cowboys.
Welcome back to Girls Talk Boys Talk, presented by Jigsaw, the preferred dating partner of the Dallas Cowboys. We are getting into all things Dallas Cowboys and Arizona Cardinals. But first, mark your calendars and get your Linderhoisen and your Steins ready. Frisco Oktoberfest officially returns in their 4th annual celebration on Saturday, October 7th at the Star in Frisco, featuring Bavarian-inspired activities, delicious food and drink, and plenty of great live entertainment. Visit thestardistrict.com/events for more information. That sounds fun.
Yeah.
That sounds
You got
really
Lederhosen ready to go? Aisha's ready
don't.
to go.
I could barely
No?
say it, so
What's
I
Leder?
definitely don't have them ready to go.
You know, the little shorts outfit with the suspenders,
Yeah.
like Bavarian
it.
in Germany. You know, for
Leader
Oktoberfest,
hoisting.
like in Sound of Music, where the little boys wearing those outfits. Anyway,
If you
whatever.
saw it, I think you would know.
You would know it if you saw it.
I like a good seasonal beer.
There you go.
Well, you
There
can
you
go
go.
to Oktoberfest, when is it, October 7th, or you can visit thestardistrict.com/events for more info if you want that. So keep texting us your questions, 817-290-3298. We'll get to them as they continue to filter in. Ladies, the Arizona Cardinals, the 0-2 Arizona Cardinals, which, you know, this team it's such an interesting place that they're in right now. The more I was studying and listening to a lot of, you know, the conversation around them, this team is kind of finding their way right now. They're not set, but that doesn't mean you should count them out either. I think a lot of people are going to be quick to count out the Arizona Cardinals in this matchup based on how the Cowboys have been performing and based on how the Cardinals have been performing. But the thing about the Cardinals that I didn't realize is what a tough schedule they have coming up, too. They play the Cowboys, they play the 49ers, and then I believe they play the Eagles as well here within the next 3 weeks. So they can't afford to lose and go 0-5 at that point. So they got to kick it up here this week, now or never, or kick it up against the 49ers and the Eagles. I mean, you pick win, but at that point, you can't get too buried in a deficit of losing, because then you're in trouble.
Yeah, in fact, the league put out some stats since 1991, so just over 30 years now. Teams that started 0-2, only 11.5% have made the playoffs. Now, it did happen last year with the Bengals, and then it happened again in 2018. But no, they cannot get in this hole. But the thing is, this is their third straight game against the NFC East. They lost on the road in Week 1 at Washington, and then they lost that heartbreaker that, boy, did they collapse in the second half. That was about as ugly a fourth quarter as the Cardinals could have. They were up 20-0 at home against the Giants, and then later in the fourth quarter led by 21 points and then still blew it. And the disappointing thing was it was them shooting themselves in the foot. I mean, credit to the Giants, who looked like a totally different team in the second half than they did in the first half, because that was ugly football by the Giants in the first half. But you know, when Arizona needed to get down and score and tie it back up, and they're committing pre-snap false start penalties. And
we'll
it's
get
like,
into
guys, come on, you know?
Yeah, that's what
By the way, that was the biggest blown lead for the Cardinals since 2011, and then that was the Giants' biggest comeback win in over 70 years.
Well,
just to give you a perspective.
Like I say, kudos to the
how big it
Giants,
was.
but man, boy, did the Cardinals just choke that one away in the fourth quarter. But thing is, they've had success against the Cowboys. Won 6 of the last 7 against the Cowboys, and they played really, really well in the first half, particularly offensively. The Cardinals, and I know usually you guys have been watching them and researching them, but don't look past this team.
And don't call it a trap game. I hate that. I hate that phrase. We're not using the phrase trap game ever here on the podcast. Drives me crazy. Real quick, we do have a couple of questions coming in, and we want to get to them as they come in. So let's start with this one from Keith. Keith wants to know what we think about Michael Gallup, if he will come back to where he was or what he can be. He said he seems to be starting slow this year. I think that's a great question by Keith, and I think that's a great starting point for us to kind of get into when we're talking matchups and all things like that, because I know Michael Gallup is a conversation right now across Cowboys Nation, Cowboys Twitter. Everyone's talking about Michael Gallup, and that was because for this Jets game, without Brandon Cooks, he was kind of the next guy that was supposed to get the snaps. Mike McCarthy was asked about this, like, what's going on with MG? Why was he not a little bit more involved? And he said it's all about ball distribution, who gets the balls, but we do need to get the ball to Michael Gallup more.
Yeah, he said they're going to make a point of it.
Yeah.
So I see Dak looking for Michael Gallup earlier and more often this week. But you know, that's something with Michael Gallup's career, you know, barring the injury and coming back, there are too many times where he disappears during the season, but he can't throw the football to himself. So I'm glad that Mike McCarthy, you know, he didn't grow defensive about the question, like, oh, what's up with Michael Gallup? It's like, hey, we know. We need to make a point of getting him the ball.
Yeah, I think it also, too, ties into his skill set and what he does and how he plays football. And when you're going up against a team that does, division type defense, that zone defense where they're looking at the quarterback and stuff, guys being able to separate and things like that, that matters. It matters a lot, So with a guy like Michael Gallup, who isn't super duper speedy, who is more physical and, strong at the point of attack with the ball, that type of stuff, that plays into also, too, when you talk about the ball distribution and stuff like that. I mean, Dak's throwing to, from my understanding, he's throwing to the first open man he sees. And so sometimes, but also, too, in fairness, Sauce Gardner, they were going away from, when you go back and look at the game, Michael Gallup, like Sauce Gardner was on Michael Gallup a lot, because that's how they play. They play certain sides of the field. So he had one of the top defenders on him, and Dak even said after the game to Sauce, I'm not going your way unnecessarily. Yeah. So I think it also is a matchup thing, too.
Yeah,
and
great point, not forcing it. Great point. Don't force it. Yeah.
And he also wasn't, I mean, look, of course the Jets were going to defend Michael Gallup. Of course they were going to go man on him because they knew that was really the automatic next guy that should have gotten more of the ball during that game without Brandon Cooks.
Yeah,
I mean, it makes sense. So yeah, just wanted to throw that out there. Keep sending us your questions if you have any. We're going to get to them throughout the show. Something that I noticed, ladies, let's start with this. When you're talking in terms of the Arizona offense, is they're kind of still, it's intriguing to me. It's intriguing to me to see what they're capable of doing during this game. I don't necessarily think that they're losing these games because they are a bad offense. I don't think so. I think they're just finding their footing. And that's why it could create a little bit more of a matchup, especially with the run defense that we're talking about has, been this Cowboys defense kryptonite in the past. Well, this could be a good test for them to see as far as a mobile quarterback goes.
Yeah, and James Conner is a very effective running back. And this Cardinals offensive line, 0 sacks allowed last week and 151 rushing yards. And just to your point, some of that was Joshua Dobbs, who's a mobile quarterback. But the first, until like the 9-minute mark of the third quarter, this offense was super effective. In fact, against a Giants defense that we talked about was so good going into week one and that strong front that they have, the Cardinals had 11 first downs in the first quarter and were just absolutely dominating and controlling that football game, particularly early. And Josh Dobbs had a 23-yard touchdown run where he just ran over a safety at the 1-yard line and barreled into the end zone. And we'll talk more about Dobbs because he's such a great story. But, and they got Hollywood Brown, so they got some speed at receiver. But Connor has been an effective guy through his entire career. Remember when he came in with Pittsburgh, but they've done a good job in terms of offensive line not allowing a lot of sacks and racking up some yards on the ground.
Yeah, they got a couple of guys over there that intrigued me. Michael Wilson is a receiver. He's such a tall receiver, but he runs fantastic routes. I saw him in the draft this past year. He was interesting to me. And then obviously Zach Ertz is there. He is the security blanket. You'll see that he leads the team in receiving because that's where a young quarterback like a Josh Dobbs is going to go. Big body, very sure. He probably runs fantastic routes. And you mentioned James Conner as well. They like to, so the thing about Arizona is schematically it's good. It's not like a lot of what they do offensively is indeed effective, but to your point, they're still trying to figure things out, figure out who's reliable and get a good understanding of each other because there's a lot of moving pieces. They've lost a lot of guys in the offseason and they've brought in a lot of gentlemen during the offseason. You mentioned the offensive line. I think their offensive line does play pretty well. I will say that their guard, I think their right guard can be pushed around if you decide to. So with the Cowboys, like you mentioned with Josh Dobbs, he's gonna escape if he needs to. He's gonna run. So the Cowboys are gonna have to be on point with that and containing him. But Other than that, I feel like they should be able to defend them.
Well, you
pretty
talk about them trying to find their way. Dobbs, of course, he's playing because Kyler Murray is on the PUP list, physically unable to perform list because of that knee injury from last December. But Dobbs has only been there 4 weeks. They traded for him in late August, so he didn't even go through training camp with his teammates. But we remember Dobbs because he was with the Titans last year when the Cowboys played at Tennessee in December. But before he actually had started, the first 11 weeks of last year, he was with the Cleveland Browns as a backup, and the new offensive coordinator for the Arizona Cardinals was with Cleveland last year. So, and he's a first-time play caller. Drew Petzing is his name, and so he knew Dobbs from their time in Cleveland together, and so I'm sure that he had great input in facilitating that trade. But I mean, they're still learning each other over there.
Real quick, something I wanted to make mention of was both the Cowboys and the Cardinals have one thing in common this week, and then that is the fact that they both have not had to play from behind yet. So both of these teams are going into this matchup not knowing what it's like to not have the lead in the game early on. And so both of these teams are going to be a good feat for each other to see who can get that early lead, get that quick start. And I think that's really going to be the tone setter of who can get started quicker offensively. Defensively, we'll get into that in a minute, but specifically I'm talking offensively, who could score first, who can capitalize in the red zone, and I think that's why it's going to be a good challenge this week as well.
Yeah, and then they only average about, I think, 22 points a game. Which, again, it makes, like, talking it out, it makes total sense of, like, why they're still...
Yeah, they didn't have an offensive touchdown in week 1. It was defensive scores. That was their loss at Washington. But I tell you, when we come back from break, I'd love to tell our viewers a little bit more about the Dobbs story, because when he's a guy that I know is the opponent this week, and Cowboy fans won't be rooting for him, but he's got an excellent backstory because he's the kind of young man that you would root for any other time that he's not playing the Cowboys.
Real quick, we have one more question going in here. And we're going to get to, I see a lot more coming in as well, so we're going to continue to get to them. But real quick, before we go to break, Jeff wants to know, will Sunday's game in Arizona be a home crowd?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, Jeff. Jeff, I hope you're in the Southwest and are planning on being there at State Farm Stadium. But I can tell you, every time we have gone to Arizona, even when it was Tempe and we were playing outdoors at Sun Devil Stadium, it is going to be a pro-Cowboy crowd. And in fact, all the snowbirds from New York and up east that have settled in Phoenix, if you were just listening to the Giants Cardinals game this past Sunday, it sounded like a Giants home crowd, and then you can even see a lot of Giants blue in the stands if you were watching tape or watching it on TV. But
you could hear it.
Oh yeah, but
Cowboys
it is going to be. What I'm really hoping for, Jeff, is that by the end of the game, Cowboys, defense hopefully playing with a lead. But if Arizona is going to have to use a silent count in their own stadium, that's what I absolutely love, is when the home team has to use a silent count. It's happened before.
Look at that. We're going to manifest it. Look, you're going to manifest that. We're going to take our next break. When we come back, we have a question about Micah Parsons. We're going to talk about what the Lion had to say as far as animal names for guys on the defense. We'll be right back. This is Girls Talk, Boys Talk, presented by Jigsaw, the preferred dating partner of the Dallas Cowboys.
At Jigsaw Dating, we obviously want the Cowboys to bring that sixth ring home. But to be honest, we're more focused on finding the person who will put a ring on your finger. That's why we created a dating app that reveals your face through meaningful conversation, so you can date deeper. Because it's personality that matters the most, not looks. Join Jigsaw Dating today, dating partner of the Dallas Cowboys.
You know that sound anywhere. It's the crisp crunch of that first nacho chip. With its perfect cheese to sour cream ratio sitting atop a layer of delicious beans, it's a sip away from perfection. That's what we're looking for. Add a delicious, refreshing Pepsi and we've achieved absolute nacho nirvana. Because while you can pile those nachos high with every spicy, cheesy, savory topping, there's no topping a cool Pepsi finish. Nachos, better with Pepsi. That's what I like.
to Girls Talk Boys Talk, presented by Jigsaw, the preferred dating partner of the Dallas Cowboys. We're talking all things Dallas Cowboys defense, but first, join us at the Miller Lighthouse at AT&T Stadium on October 7th and 8th for world-class barbecue from pitmasters across the country while enjoying live entertainment and liberations at Q Barbecue Fest Dallas. This October, the only thing hotter than the Dallas Cowboys will be 30,000 pounds of brisket, chicken, pulled pork, and ribs smoking at the Miller Lighthouse when some of the biggest names in barbecue come together at Q Barbecue Fest. Tickets are on sale now at SeatGeek.com, the official ticketing provider of AT&T Stadium.
30,000 pounds of brisket. Yes.
Yeah, no. It says 30,000. That's a lot of meat. That's a lot.
Well, no, that's one weekend at training camp in Oxnard for the offensive line. So yeah, that's easy. That's like
so
that
good right now.
It does.
30,000 pounds of it though. How do you feel?
Heck
about
yeah!
That?
The only
Right
thing
now?
better is 31,000 pounds. There you go.
Could be funny.
All right, guys, y'all kill me. Okay, keep sending us your questions if you have any. We're going to try to get to all of them in this last block. You can text us at 817-290-3298. One Love T on Twitter, ladies, wants to kick this segment off by asking, will Micah Parsons finally be the defensive player of the year this season? Go Cowboys, is what he said. Thank you so much for all the Twitter love, by the way. I always see him popping up, giving us all the positive love on Twitter, too, so wanted to shout that out. Micah Parsons, on the track he is at, what is the ceiling for Micah Parsons? Is there one? What do we think?
Well, I mean, for me, my first thought was just as long as his health allows him, yeah. I think he could be the MVP. I believe he could be the defensive player of the year, whatever he chooses. I believe that he can do it, and partially is because he believes in himself. He takes care of his body, but he's always constantly trying to get better. He's constantly trying to be a better player. So sky's the limit for him, man. Like, it's not that often that you come across players that are as great as he is, but they're just continuing. Because if he just decided to just, stay where he is right now and just be like, okay, I've done enough, I'm just going to continue to be like this. No, but he's taking the extra steps to go out in the offseason, train with Andrew Whitworth and those guys to get better. I think he could be a name in this league for a long time. But as far as him being the MVP, if his health permits, absolutely.
Yeah, well, Defensive Player of the Week, so that's a good start
That's a good
there.
start.
But, yeah, and I think that it goes to the fact that the people who vote for it, and TJ Watt, those guys very deserving as well, but it's the effect that they have on the entire defense. So it's not just your personal stats, right? It's making the people around you better, and
Yes.
knowing that the offensive coordinator and everything is game planned towards you. That's when you're really great. Is when you are the focus and they're game planning specifically for you, and you're still wrecking
And they still
the game.
can't stop
You're
it.
still wrecking the play.
Sounds just
and
like
so,
Micah.
So the people in the league, they know that, they see that.
Yeah.
So and if honestly, it has to do with health, doesn't it? So if he stays healthy, then heck yeah.
Yep. Good point. Always wanted to start this segment out talking about Micah. We did hear from him today as well in the locker room. And Micah is just such a character. Oh, my goodness. This man, he goes from talking about some schematics to animal names that he's given some of his teammates to his faith, all within 15 minutes. I mean, that was the most bouncy, jumpy conversation that we're laughing 1 second, and then by the very end, our heartstrings were being pulled when he started talking about his faith and his belief. Micah carries a Bible around with him here, and he was asked about it and if it was something new for him, and his answer was phenomenal. If you get the chance to go back and listen to what he had to say today, it was really sweet.
Yeah,
It was really nice.
Doing
Good
daily
moment.
devotionals
Yep.
now, and about being the best person you can be, and
Yep.
faith and walking the right way. But the fun part was the nicknames, and we found out a new nickname for one of the new defensive linemen.
Oh yeah, an orca. Look, and I'm not saying they stole the animal names from us here on Girls Talk, Boys Talk. I'm not
No, they
saying
don't.
that.
No.
I'm just saying we started the trend here first of giving guys animal names on the podcast.
Yeah. If you're Mozzie, what do you think about being an
An orca.
I would love it because they're one of the most intelligent animals that actually are thought of to be, they're one of the most intelligent animals in the world, but also, too, they are sublime hunters. Like,
Right.
they're fantastic hunters. They work together, and then orcas are so complex, but their intellect is through the roof, but they're so strong, and I think it's an interesting comparison, but when you start looking at what a orca does and how they operate, I'm like, oh, that makes sense.
Well,
that
when
makes sense.
Micah was talking, this came up because Micah was talking about why a lion, and it started with the lion crawl that he doesn't want to call it the lion crawl. He doesn't have a name for it yet, so if anybody has any suggestions, drop it to us, and we can.
Well, he said
let him know.
he said he might
He's
give you
open for
1%.
suggestions.
So he kind of threw that out there at the end of the.
And
he better
so-
not say that twice. 'Cause
No, better not. But we did get to hear kind of where the lion background came from and the instincts of the lion and why he picked a lion specifically. Very interesting stuff from Micah Parsons. But
Fowler, Jaguar. I remember
he
that.
did.
Called
He said
Fowler
Dante
a
Fowler was a
Jaguar.
jaguar.
I
Yep.
wish I could
well,
remember.
Fowler was a jaguar.
Whole
so.
zoo of chaos over there on the
That's
Cowboys
funny.
defense. Oh my goodness. So let's get a little bit more into the matchups. We have about 5 minutes left, give or take. Let's talk. Oh my goodness, I almost said Jets. Go to week 3. My brain is now in week 3. Cardinals defense. Let's talk there. We haven't even gotten to touch base there yet. We'll get more into all of this tomorrow as well. But the Cardinals defense, I think this is the part of the team that is shooting themselves in their own foot, if you will, with the penalties, kind of being a little too anxious to make the big play. Something I gathered was, we've heard this conversation the last couple of weeks of the Cowboys not chasing big plays, and I feel like for the Cardinals defense, they should take a little bit of note of that because it seems like they're trying so hard to make big plays happen that's just kind of slipping by them. They're missing tackles, shooting themselves in the foot with penalties. What are some of the things you noticed?
Their inability to get constant pressure on the quarterback is something that I noticed. Is like their defensive line is not getting a lot in that department, and that in turn, to your point, it's a trickle down effect, right? Because if your defensive line is not getting pressure on the quarterback and not affecting them, if the offense can just run their offense freely without any pressure, you're gonna see a team like the Giants come back on you, and because you can't sustain that lead. I know they brought in Kazir White from the Eagles from last year, so their linebacker core is still trying to find its way. They got some youngins, some rooks, some young guys on the outside at cornerback. So again, like we talked about, this is a team in a place where I can't say they're rebuilding, but they're trying to figure things out. And when you have that happen, there's some confusion. There's some guys trying to play what we call hero ball because there's not enough being done from the front seven, and it's not helping the back end at all.
Yeah, so far the guy who's gotten the most pressure is Dennis Gardeck. They play a 3-4, and so this is a guy who's outside linebacker, and so pass rushing there off the edge. He actually has 3 sacks, so he tied with Micah Parsons and Osa Odigizua. So we talk about Osa and Micah being off to a great start. Well, Gardeck is that, and Arizona has 9 sacks, and he's got a third of them. The thing, though, is on the back end, they're missing Budda Baker. So he was placed on IR, All-Pro Budda Baker, the really heart of their team and a great leader. And so with him now going on IR with a hamstring injury, this means that Andre Sacheret, who was a backup with the Eagles and came in this offseason, he'll get his second start in a row. So tough for them to miss Budda Baker, but also a couple injuries up front because they were missing Collier. And then Carlos Watkins, the former Dallas Cowboy defensive lineman, placed on injured reserve today. He hurt his biceps early in that loss to New York on Sunday. And in fact, they only had 4 once Watkins went out of that game early with the injury, they only had 4 defensive linemen to get through the rest of that game. So they couldn't really do a true rotation.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And from watching parts of the game, especially the second half of the Giants and Cardinals from week 2, it was interesting because they kind of look like they deflate into the second half. Like, they go in there, it's not great, but it almost made me question their stamina a little bit. Stamina didn't look great. I know some reporters on the Arizona side of things asked, is stamina an issue? And obviously the answer was no, but it just doesn't look like the energy is there. And I think that goes back to what you said, Christy, about Budda Baker not being in. When you don't have your playmaker, you don't have your locker room leader there to amp you up, and even if it's from the sidelines or not, he's just not there in general. He didn't even travel with the team at that point. But it's so interesting to me to see how this team is going to handle not having Budda. And, if he doesn't come back the 4 weeks from IR, what happens? Yeah. Who steps up to be the leader for them? Because I think that's what they're missing. They're missing their keystone guy to amp them up and give them the direction. They're missing their thermostat, if you will, on the defensive side.
And they have had so much turnover, not just with the coaching staff, but 57% of the entire roster for the Cardinals is new.
Yeah.
So we talk about them learning each other on offense. They're doing the same on defense. And by the way, their new defensive coordinator, Nick Rollis, 30 years old. Never called plays before, just as their offensive coordinator hadn't called plays before. So I want to see if, again, this week, Nick is wearing his hoodie with his hood up inside the, air-conditioned State Farm thing. He's kind of like, he's got the play call sheet, and he's got the thing, and he's got his, you're inside in Phoenix, or Glendale, Arizona, and he's got the hood up and the sweatshirt
maybe
on.
Mike will do that this week because he
maybe
got some flack for not covering
his
his mouth.
he admitted that he was out of practice not covering his mouth with the sheet.
But you made a really good point about Gannon, being their new head coach. What I look at in this first couple of games is at halftime. I know we talk about halftime adjustments and everything, but there is a game within the game. And I really felt like the Giants saw something going into the half, and they were able to capitalize off of that. And I just thought that maybe, because Gannon, I believe in his presser this past week, he said, I got to be better. I have to coach better. I have to adjust better. And to me, I think that is something that plays a role in why they are, what are you using, like deflating in the second half, because there's you figure out things from your opponent as time goes on. And to your point, this is a new team. This is a totally flipped roster. So teams are kind of learning about these players as they go in game. And once I think the Giants figured out some things, they were able to capitalize off of it. So that chess match between, DQ and the young OC and just some of that stuff, I think that's going to matter as well. Experience hopefully prevails.
There you go. Well, ladies, we have a lot of notes still that we're going to have to leak over into tomorrow's episode of Girls Talk, Boys Talk. Christy has some good stuff, I know, waiting to talk about. Aisha, I know you have more. And then I know we talked to some of the players today as well about some of the red zone production for the Cowboys and how to amp that up. So we'll get into that tomorrow. And we even have a special guest lined up for you guys. You're going to have to tune in and see who that is. Until then, go have yourself a great rest of your day. Go be awesome as usual. We'll be back here, same time, same place, DallasCowboys.com, 4 o'clock Central Time tomorrow afternoon. Have a great day. This has been Girls Talk, Boys Talk, presented by Jigsaw, the preferred dating partner of the Dallas Cowboys. We'll see you tomorrow.
This has been a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about this, Cowboys? Yeah!